I want to be done with it. And I know you do too. I just got back from the heart of this country, where I hosted a town hall with our President Joe Biden, reporting on all the issues this country is facing. COVID, voting rights, crime, jobs, a lot of them out there. And as I traveled back and forth, it occurred to me, I'm masking up again. I'm taking more precautions again. I'm vaccinated, fully vaccinated. And because half of us aren't, and because the kids can't, we're backsliding. This is a pandemic, really, of the unvaccinated. Cases are on the rise all across the country. Some hospitals are running out of beds. I can't believe I have to report that again. Remember, during the height of the pandemic, hospitals running out of beds, and now some hospitals running out of beds again. Yet the daily average of people getting fully vaccinated is the lowest it's been since the end of January. You heard the President Joe Biden at our town hall.
Look, it's real simple. We have a pandemic for those who haven't gotten a vaccination. It's that basic, that simple. This is a simple, basic proposition. If you're vaccinated, you're not going to be hospitalized, you're not going to be in an ICU unit, and you're not going to die. So it's gigantically important that we all act like Americans that care about our fellow Americans.
A few states are in particularly bad shape, okay? Pay attention to this, everyone. 40% of the cases coming from Texas, Missouri, and Florida, where Governor Ron DeSantis, who has been pretty cocky about his state, is still Mr. laissez-faire in his response to the virus. Even in the middle of urging the people of Florida to get vaccinated today, the governor insisted the recent spike is just part of seasonal fluctuations in the virus. Florida is averaging nearly 6,500 cases per day. That's double last week. Yet the governor's campaign website is selling "Don't Fauci My Florida" koozies and T-shirts. Even one saying, quote, "How the hell am I going to be able to drink a beer with a mask on?" Like I said, Mr. laissez-faire. And it's going to impact the fall big time. Back to school. Big time. Even the NFL, big time. So tonight, a new rule in the NFL is if a game is canceled because of a COVID outbreak among unvaccinated players, guess what? That team will have to forfeit and will be credited with a loss. We're going to talk about that in just a little bit. On Capitol Hill, Republicans are putting politics over public health. Even the GOP's doctors, well, caucus doctors, they don't seem to see the need for Republicans to be more vocal about vaccines. Dr. Ronnie Jackson, you remember he was the White House doctor to not one but two presidents, President Barack Obama and the former guy. He got pretty hot under the collar about the idea of Republicans being asked to say whether or not they were vaccinated.
Yeah, I was just going to chime in and say I think that you as a press have a responsibility to ask questions of the Democrats as well. How many of the Democrats are willing to say whether or not they've been vaccinated? And what about the Texas delegation from the Texas House that came here? Well, they've said that, including the 6 that tested positive. Do we have any evidence of that? I highly doubt that those 6 people were all vaccinated and tested positive for this virus.
And that guy's a doctor. Well, you should listen. Maybe you shouldn't ask questions you don't know the answer to, because that's the question of Democrats, huh? That's exactly what CNN has done. We already did that. We spent multiple inquiries to members, or sent multiple inquiries to members of Congress, and reviewed their public statements. 97 House Republicans, nearly half, refused to tell us whether they've been vaccinated or not. 219 House Democrats confirmed that they are vaccinated. Republican Congressman Chip Roy told CNN, and I quote here, "I don't think it's anybody's damn business whether I'm vaccinated or not." Okay? And then there's Matt Gaetz. You remember the DOJ is investigating his alleged sexual relationship with a minor. He told CNN that he thought the question was nosy and said, quote, "I think we should be talking more about freeing Britney." Serious, right? He's a serious congressman. One of those hardest hit states has a senator, and you know him. It's Ted Cruz. It's been exactly a year since he made this prediction.
If it ends up that Biden wins in November, I hope he doesn't. I don't think he will, but if he does, I guarantee you the week after the election, suddenly all those Democratic governors, all those Democratic mayors will say, everything's magically better. Go back to work, go back to school. Suddenly the problems are solved. You won't even have to wait for Biden to be sworn in. All they'll need is election day, and suddenly their willingness to just destroy people's lives and livelihoods, they will have accomplished their task. That's wrong. It's cynical, and we shouldn't be a part of it.
Another informed genius in Ronnie Jackson. What you should be a part of is fixing the situation in your state. Could you be more wrong? And I'll tell you what's cynical. It's cynical to put your own political fortunes ahead of the lives of the people who elected you to serve them. That's what is cynical. And there's news tonight on the House Select Committee to tell you about, the committee to investigate the violent insurrection at the Capitol on January 6th. With the first hearing next week, Nancy Pelosi is seriously considering adding at least one Republican to the panel, and that's Adam Kinzinger. Former Congressman Denver Riggleman says that if he is asked, that he's going to join the committee too. That after Kevin McCarthy took his ball and his bat and he went home, pulling his 5 GOP members off after the House Speaker Nancy Pelosi rejected 2 of his choices. Listen to what he told Manu Raju today.
What is wrong with having 1 or 2 members of your conference join with Democrats to investigate what happened here?
You know it, and we predicted it back at the very beginning. This is a sham committee that's just politically driven by Speaker Pelosi.
Okay. Speaker Pelosi saying that she won't let what she called the GOP's antics get in the way of the investigation.
It is my responsibility as Speaker of the House to make sure we get to the truth on this, and we will not let their antics stand in the way of that.
And speaking of antics, here's her response to Kevin McCarthy's claim that he'll start his own investigation.
You know what? I'm not talking about him. Okay, what else you got? No, I'm not. I'm not concerned. And let's not waste each other's time, okay?
That's an auntie. That's mama. Mama, don't waste my time. Let's focus on what's important. Don't try to change the subject. I feel like this is my mom when I would. But Mom, I'm sorry I'm home late with the car. Don't try to change the subject. The fact is, there's already 1 Republican on the committee, Liz Cheney, and there may be 2 more waiting in the wings. And you got to wonder whether Kevin McCarthy's picks of Jim Jordan and Jim Banks, 2 Republicans who voted to block Joe Biden's election, was just an effort to kill the committee. Jim Jordan said in December that there was no way the defeated president should concede. He pushed the big lie that there was something wrong with the election. Jim Banks questioned the legality of some votes and claimed the committee was created to, quote, malign conservatives. So let's be real here. You can't have them on a committee that's supposed to be investigating what happened on January 6th. I think she should have allowed the picks and allowed this to play out. I think exactly right. Nancy Pelosi signed off on bipartisanship. Kevin McCarthy rejected it. And I asked President Biden about that in our town hall. If Republicans and Democrats can't come together, right, to investigate the biggest attack on our Capitol in 200 years, what makes you think that they can come together on anything?
These people. No, I mean it. I'm not being facetious. Democrats and Republicans. I don't care if you think I'm Satan reincarnated. The fact is, you can't look at that television and say, nothing happened on the 6th. You can't listen to people who say this was a peaceful march.
Okay, so here's the real question. What is the GOP hiding? Just 1 week after the insurrection said that the then president bore responsibility.
The president bears responsibility for Wednesday's attack on Congress by mob rioters. He should have immediately denounced the mob when he saw what was unfolding. These facts require immediate action by President Trump. Accept his share of responsibility, quell the brewing unrest, and ensure President-elect Biden is able to successfully begin his term. And the president's immediate action also deserves congressional action, which is why I think a fact-finding commission and a censure resolution would be prudent.
Whatever happened to that guy? A fact-finding commission, huh? Like the one he pulled Republicans off yesterday? What is the GOP trying to hide? Liz Cheney, who lost her leadership position for telling the truth, for slamming the big lie that fueled the insurrection, says this.
There must be an investigation that is nonpartisan, that is sober, that is serious, that gets to the facts wherever they may lead. And at every opportunity, the minority leader has attempted to prevent the American people from understanding what happened, to block this investigation.
So Republicans have made it pretty darn clear that they don't want an investigation. They want to play politics and turn the committee to focusing on Nancy Pelosi, really. That's what they want. Change the narrative. The GOP is just following the lead of the disgraced, twice impeached, one-term former president, or ex-president. Maybe I should start saying that. They can't have a committee because it would uncover the truth of what this rambling, incoherent guy is responsible for.
Loving crowd, too, by the way. There was a lot of love. I've heard that from everybody. Many, many people have told me.
You're not going to believe this, but maybe you will in the times that we're in. Officers like Harry Dunn, who told me what it was like to have racial slurs hurled at him while he was risking his life trying to protect our democracy. Watch. Propaganda network. A guy named Tucker Carlson attacked Officer Dunn, attacked an American hero, saying he had very little in common with your average cop. I'm going to let you decide why you think Tucker Carlson would say that. Why is Harry Dunn different than, quote, your average cop? Because he's among those advocating for the truth that day, right? Wouldn't that be being pro-law and order? And that brings us to this question. What is the supposedly pro-law and order GOP trying to hide? That is happening as voting rights, our most sacred rights as Americans, are under assault. I asked President Joe Biden during our CNN town hall, is protecting the filibuster more important than protecting voting rights?
There were significantly fewer filibusters in those days, in the middle of the civil rights movement.
But let me talk to you about that.
Well, let me finish my answer, because I'll tell you what I'd do. I would go back to that, where you have to maintain the floor. You have to stand there and talk and hold the floor. You can't just say,
I understand that. But what difference is that if you hold the floor for, a day or a year, what difference does it make? Here's the thing for me. You talked about people, and this is important for people who look like me. My grandmother would sit around when I was a kid, 5th grade, had a 5th grade education. I learned that she couldn't read when I was doing my homework. She would tell me stories about people asking her to